It's a very sad day for everybody connected with Rangers Football Club, with the passing of a true club legend in Sandy Jardine, a man who, you know, is held in such high regard, both within Rangers Football Club, but also within the wider football community. It's a very sad day, you know, for us all. A man whose character, whose approach, whose behaviour epitomises everything that Rangers Football Club stands for. A man who, you know, whose presence on the field has been considerably enhanced with his contributions to the club off the field. You know, a man whose values, whose professionalism, whose integrity, you know, really speak for everything that Rangers Football Club stands for. And the club is a very much poorer place today for his passing. Just like to, on behalf of the club, you know, send our best wishes to his wife and family. And in the spirit of how, you know, the brief time I've known Sandy, in terms of what I would expect he would have asked of me today, you know, we did consider whether it was appropriate to continue with the business review today. But, you know, Sandy's focus was always on doing the right things for a Rangers Football Club, and my assessment of what he would have wanted would have been for us to continue as planned in resetting the baseline for the football club for the future. So, thank you.
Mr. Wallace, could you take us through the finer points of the business reviews as you see them?
Yeah, I think if you cast your mind back to December at the AGM, when I talked about the need for us, first of all, to conduct an in-depth analysis, an in-depth review of the way the club was operating, which we have done. This grew into the mythical 120-day review, but really what we wanted was the time to actually understand the way the club was currently operating, look at the basis of operations, look at the way that we thought it needed to be structured going forward, and then have the time to actually develop a strategy, you know, for the rebuilding of Rangers. You know, the Rangers support are looking for a sense of vision. They're looking for a sense of ambition to take this club back to where we all expect it to be. And I think it was very difficult to do that without having, you know, completed a fundamental look at the basics of the business. So that's effectively what we've done.
It took Fergus McCann 10 days to do exactly the same with Celtic. Why has it taken you 10 times as long?
Well, I think we deliberately took a considered and measured approach. You know, this is a club that's existed for 142 years. So to spend 120 days to actually look at the next evolution of the club, you know, doesn't appear an unreasonable time. What I particularly wanted to do was to understand, you know, the details of what we had and what I was inheriting in order to be able to build a solid platform going forward, and to do it in the right way and in a considered and measured approach, rather than, you know, being desperate to to meet a particular timeline.
Was what you found worse than what you were anticipating, or in the back of your mind, is this what you expected?
I think at an overall level, the situation is worse than I anticipated. You know, when I joined, I knew there was a challenge. I knew there was a significant issue that needed to be, to be confronted. So I certainly came in, you know, fully prepared for that. But I think the magnitude of, you know, of some of the issues that we have talked about in our report today give a sense of an indication of some of the challenges that we've inherited.
You've said before that there was no threat of administration. Having gone through this review, do you still stand by that?
Yeah, I still stand by, you know, the statements that I made previously in terms of no threat of administration. You know, a football club, you know, such as Rangers, has a significant portion of its annual income from season tickets. You know, we have a normal established timing cycle across the year, you know, for that. And obviously, if you have any fundamental change to the timing of your flow of income, you know, that has an impact on your bottom line and your cash position. But in terms of, as I look at the business today, I'm more confident today than I have been. I think we've got a very clear vision and a very clear path forward, and hopefully the Rangers fans worldwide will look at our ambition, they'll look at our vision, and they will see a club that they are, you know, happy to continue to support in the way that they have.
Graham, can you say what has been the single systematic biggest failure financially at this football club since the club exited administration?
I think we've said in the report today that the club has missed a massive opportunity to rebuild itself in a controlled and managed way. When the club came out of administration, this is a business that had no debt. a football club with no debt. There are not many football clubs, in this country that operate with the facilities, the infrastructure that we have, on a debt-free basis. So I think there was a massive opportunity to actually build the club in a progressive manner, which has been missed.
This club's been in the 3rd division last season and now in League One. It's been spending, in the words of the report, via the 2nd biggest wage bill in the country. Champions League money. Why?
Well, I think, Rangers will always have a substantial wage bill. I think that's to be expected. We expect to be a competitive football club domestically and in Europe. And in order to do that, you have to invest. I think you could question whether you needed to invest at the levels that the club did for the leagues that it was playing. I think that's a perfectly valid question to ask. But what we have inherited and what is there, we will manage and deal with. We quite clearly, 2 successive championship wins. We're going into the championship next year, which will be a competitive league, clearly with the expectation of the club winning the championship and putting ourselves back into the top flight. And you have to invest in the team in order to be able to do that.
Mr. Wallace, at any point during the business review, was administration considered, discussed?
No, not at any point. I can categorically confirm that.
You've said to the stock exchange. Sorry, you've said to the stock exchange today that there was financial, misadministration prior to or after the IPO. What did you mean by that exactly?
I think what we've said in the detail in our report today is that there were a number of issues in connection with the management of the business that were taken on a very short-term basis. There were decisions taken and money spent that if the club had taken a medium to longer term view, it would have realised it was creating a problem for itself further down the road.
You're not suggesting that there's any activity that would cross the boundary into, say, criminality or fraud?
No, I'm not.
Graham, can I ask you a couple of quick points on the basis that you know exactly how many season tickets have been purchased so far? If you don't get to the required level, will this club be struggling to trade and possibly have to consider administration?
There would need to be a substantial reduction in season ticket renewals for the club to have an operating issue. And I mean a substantial issue.
How short are you away from it at the moment? Are you worried?
Well, at the moment, I think there's a lot of Rangers fans have been holding off renewing their season tickets until they had a sense of vision, a sense of understanding the health of their club first of all, but probably more importantly the vision in terms of what it is that they're looking for, going forward. I think in our report today we have outlined the assessment of the current conditions. But more importantly, we've given them a sense of vision that we expect to be competitive, we expect to be challenging at the top. We're prepared to invest and develop a long-term strategy and a long-term plan for that. And if the supporters like that and back their club in the way that they have, there's no reason why the club can't go from strength to strength.
And what about bonuses? Would you be taking a bonus? Would anybody else on this board be taking a bonus given the circumstances?
Well, I think any individual's remuneration is a matter, for the individual. My personal remuneration is approved by the remuneration committee of the board, and you would expect it to be in line with comparable executives, to doing the job that I'm doing.
Would you expect it to be comparable and acceptable to the Rangers fans, given that they've watched 19 months of 70 million being whittled away on other people other than yourself?
I think the Rangers fans would respect and understand compensation being paid at an appropriate level if they can see the value being delivered for their club. If they can see it being properly managed, if they can see the governance, they can see the overall fabric of the club improving. There is a vision and there's a strategy. I think the supporters would endorse and support that.
You will accept your reasoning behind a 120-day review, but 24 hours prior to that they have a member of this club who's not on the board who comes out and makes statements which could be detrimental to the club and the stock exchange. Sandy Easdale I'm talking about. Were you disappointed by that? Do you think that was called for so close to your review?
I think Sandy Easdale made his comments in a personal capacity as a shareholder, and that's a matter for him. My focus has been on completing the review and managing the process and the business going forward.
Graham, if the club requires investment, is Dave King somebody that you think they should be spoken to about that?
I've consistently said that I have no issues with talking to Dave King about potential investment. If you recall back at the AGM we had an authority that was denied to allow us to effectively issue substantial shares, and that is in our release today. We talk about we will be going back to shareholders in the autumn for authority for a significant investment raise. If Dave King wishes to be part of a future equity raise, which he said he is interested in, then of course the club would be prepared, to engage with him in line with the appropriate regulations concerning such equity.
Why hasn't he been spoken to with that plan before now?
Well, we have spoken, and the board have spoken, with Dave, and that's on public record. He has indicated a willingness to potentially invest in a future equity raise. We have outlined today our plans that the board will seek authority for a future equity raise, and if there is equity available as part of that raise, then perhaps Dave King may wish to consider investing.
Graham, he says the board can't be trusted. That's what he said recently, given recent dialogue between yourselves and him in the public domain. Do you feel that what he has said and his desire to set up a trust fund, how destabilising is that for you and for the future of this football club?
I think you'd need to speak to Dave King first of all about his assessment of trust. That's not for me to comment on. The establishment of a trust fund or potentially encouragement to season ticket holders to withhold or withdraw, delay renewing their tickets. Yes, it has an impact on the club. It quite clearly does. A lot of business that we are dealing with externally are looking at the club and getting a little bit nervous about dealing with Rangers, perhaps on the perspective of, is this club going to survive? Is this club going to be here in 6 months' time? We've announced today as part of our review that we are unable, unfortunately, to be taking credit and debit card payments for season ticket renewals. That is a direct consequence of some of the external conversations talking about the potential longevity of the club. That's a tangible example of an operating issue which is damaging Rangers Football Club today.
Do you think then that announcement will alienate supporters who may be wavering and thinking, shall I or shall I not renew my season ticket? Do you accept that there's a risk there?
I think there's always a risk. I would hope it wouldn't alienate supporters. I would hope they would look at what we've announced today and look at it in considering that what we're actually doing is mapping out a plan and a vision that gives them comfort that their club is in good hands, and B, is a clear idea of where we want to take it.
Can I ask you about a specific point in the expenditure with detail? It refers to the purchase of fixed assets. Now, Craig White always said that he had control over the fixed assets of the football club. What then is the purchase of the fixed assets? Can you clear that up for us?
The fixed assets that is disclosed in the expenditure analysis is basically predominantly stadium based. So it's the purchase of the in-stadium Wi-Fi, the LED boards, the new jumbo screens, the purchase of the Albion car park, the purchase of Edmondson House, and a range of other fixed assets. So tangible fixed assets in the fabric of the club.
Just something else that says in the figures, I think in the annual figures it said that the playing wage bill was 7.8, whereas in this one it's 10.4. I'm just wondering why there's such a difference.
Well, what you've got in the analysis we've published today. Now, Rangers fans have asked me repeatedly, can you shed some light on where all the money has gone, post-administration? And what we've tried to do today is to give them a summary that shows the money that's been generated, not just through the share sales and the IPO, but also through 2 seasons of operating activity, and then where that money's gone. So effectively, the summary that we published today covers the period from May through until December 2013, whereas what you're probably referring to is, a specific financial year.
In the interim results, Mr Wallace, the wage budget for the club in total was £17.6 million, and £7.8 million was attributed to the players. So where does this other £9.8 million go in non-playing costs?
Well, I think obviously the analysis of our compensation is disclosed in the financial statements in the full year to June 2013, and then in the interim statements through to December of 2013. There are obviously a significant portion of our wage cost relates to off-field staff as well as playing staff.
Is that unusual? Can you break that down at all? It seems unusually large compared to the playing budget.
We don't separately analyse it for publication externally.
Are you concerned by the difference between the two? Is it normal?
I'm not concerned at an overall level in terms of looking at the composition of the business as it is today.
Graham, you have mentioned there that you want to try and convince people to invest in Rangers. You've set out a plan which is 3 years of hopefully trying to acquire equity, but by the same time you've suggested that the playing staff budget will not be affected. How can you assure and reassure Rangers fans of this point when clearly there are a number of imponderables? You don't know what money's coming in from the season tickets. Companies are very wary of investing in Rangers, and for example Brian Jackson at Hearts, when he looked at the situation and a responsible manager, cut the wage bill of the players. Why would you not do that as an immediate concern to try and reassure everyone that you're acting responsibly?
I think my immediate reaction to that would be, first and foremost, we're building a club and a team, for success. We have got to be competitive and be successful in the Championship next season to be back in the Premiership. So part of my role is not just looking at the short-term issues and short-term decisions that we have to make, but very much taking a longer-term view, looking for next season, looking at the season beyond. It's widely reported in January we were approached to ask if we would consider transferring Lee Wallace, for example, a very, very important player for us, who absolutely is capable of being a strong performer in the top division. To take a quick deal on something like that and then have to go back into the market in 12 months or 18 months' time, to me makes no sense at all. But obviously you've got to have the confidence in your underlying business fundamentals in order to be making those judgments. And
forgive me for not understanding the accounts, but why is the £5.5 million purchase of the club in those figures there? Has that been recompensed to other investors?
That was the purchase price that was paid for the business when it came out of administration. So the monies that were paid to actually acquire the club.
There's one unanswered question in here, Mr. Wallace. Every Rangers fan, investor wants to know. You had £3.5 million in the bank in December. How much money is in the bank today?
There's a little bit less than £3.5 million in the bank today. In terms of our ability to continue to operate and to continue to trade, we're managing the business in the way that you would expect. The football club, as I mentioned previously, our annual income cycle and the income flows, we have a significant portion of that, flows in over the summer months. This is historically the low point of any football club's, cash position, and Rangers is no different.
Graham, is there Graham, can you clarify whether there's going to be any risk of redundancies of any members of staff, playing, non-playing staff at the football club in the immediate short term?
Yeah. We have announced, as part of the review, that we are reorganising the off-field management and staffing structure. I spoke to all the staff this morning, and what we're doing is building an organisation that's equipping us to be, structured and operating in the way that we can drive the club going forward. As part of that, there will be some staff changes, made to the existing staff setup, and there will be a small number of changes.
Is that backroom staff? Does that affect playing staff at all?
It doesn't affect playing staff. This is principally focused on the Ibrox-based business staff.
How many job losses do you think that would be?
I think it's going to be a relatively small number.
Okay, will Ali McCoist be able to sign any players this season? If so, how many this summer?
Ali and I are in constant dialogue in terms of his assessment of the squad needs, and obviously with from my side looking at our financial capability to be able to to support that. He will have funds available. He will be able to strengthen the team. And he will be looking at where he wants to make those changes.
Did you experience any shortfall in trying to meet the salaries this month, the April salaries?
Sorry?
Did you experience any shortfall when it came to trying to meet the April salary?
No, we did not.